Hey everyone, today we roll the dice, take a chance, and look at The Gambler, starring Mark Wahlberg, brought to us by director Rupert Wyatt, who gives us the story of Jim Bennett, played by Wahlberg. And Jim Bennett is a literary professor at a decent college. He's got a decent job, but he's got a decent problem too, and that problem is with gambling. Well, one night he gets himself in real trouble to where he owes the wrong people, two sets of the wrong people, money. So he owes it to two different, very nasty individuals who do not like it when you don't pay. And we see how he handles the weak time period that he has to get this money, and what he does to help pretty much self-destruct his life, thanks in no part to this gambling addiction he has. Along the way, not only does he try to ruin his career, but he also ends up in a relationship with one of his students, which doesn't help matters any. And then, of course, there is the problem relationship he has with his mother. This guy's got a slew of problems, and gambling is just one of them. The Gambler, now, I went into this film, and I will say that I was interested in seeing it because of the performance of Wahlberg and the other folks in here, and I was not disappointed by the performances. I will say Mark Wahlberg probably gives one of the better performances of the year as Jim Bennett, this guy who you're not quite sure how he feels or how you're supposed to feel about him. One minute you think he's making a decent move, a good job, he's getting himself out of the hole, and then he just digs himself further into the hole, and it almost seems like he wants to, part because of this gambling addiction, which he has accepted is an addiction, but you get that feeling he just doesn't have a solution and may be giving up. So it is really an interesting dynamic with this character of how you should actually feel towards him, and I loved how Mark Wahlberg played it, and I think it's one of the better performances he has put out. Now, he's got other great cast around him. He's got Jessica Lange in here, which is always great to see on the big screen. We've seen her in American Horror Story. She does beautiful there. Does fantastic here as his mother, who really is just not sure how to handle her son anymore, and I loved her role in this, and always great to see her on the big screen. You also got Brie Larson in here, who plays the student that he kind of falls for, and she doesn't get a lot of screen time either. It really centers around the Mark Wahlberg character, but the screen time she does have, I like the chemistry between her and Mark, but I also think, though, that Brie Larson's talent may have been wasted in this role. You could have just about got anyone, I think, for this. You didn't need too deep of a role or too strong of an acting performance for her role, because it is really more about the Jim Bennett character. You also have in here Michael Kenneth Williams, who did great as Neville Baraka. Now, Neville is one of the bad guys, well, the guys that Jim Bennett owes money to, and I loved how he was played by Michael Kenneth. He really plays this character well, not too over the top, just this guy who is scary, who you can just tell you don't want to owe money to. You know, he doesn't do it too over the top, but he still just plays this cool yet killer type of character, and I just loved that, how he came across on screen with this character. You also get John Goodman in here playing a fairly scary character as well. At first you might be a little charismatic, but as the film goes on, even though he doesn't have a lot of screen time, when he does get, as the scenes go on in this film, he just kind of gets darker and meaner and a little bit more scary, and it's always fun to see John Goodman there. You know, I think the weak point here with The Gambler, though, was this script. It wasn't the characters, it wasn't the performance, it was the script. This film felt like it was trying to be smarter than what it was. It was trying to be more than actually what it was, and that's the feeling I got throughout this movie. Was you know, there were some moments that were like, oh, go deeper, go darker, and it didn't, and I'm not quite sure how they were trying to approach this film, but whichever approach it wasn't quite working for me or gel. It felt a little clunky in the middle of this film, like they were trying to feel out exactly where they were going to go with it, and in the end, The Gambler, you only get kind of a middle-of-the-road film. For me, it was 2 3/4 stubs, okay, and most of that is for the performances and the actors that they had in here. It really is a character piece, and the plot and the story were probably the weakest point, which is kind of the spine of the film, and if that's weak there, the other things don't stand out quite as much. So if you're interested in The Gambler, maybe a matinee on it. If you're a Mark Wahlberg fan, you could go see it, but I'd really wait till it comes out on rental and see it there. You probably feel like you're out less when you watch it there than you would on the big screen. And that'll about do it for us here at The Final Cut. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep that ticket stub.